aired, I might as well go ahead with it, right? Well, last week we talked a little bit about the human ego, and that the ego is not a bad thing. It's just that part of us that thinks we're separate. And when you have that belief that you're separate from the divine, of course there's all kinds of fear, and you have to attack and defend, and it gets into all kinds of trouble. So the biggest struggle, though, the biggest core belief that the ego has is that I'm not enough. Anybody here struggle with that some days? That I'm not enough, or I don't have enough, fill in the blank, right? And the catch-22 of that is, if you believe you're not enough, guess what? You won't be enough, right? That's what I call the law of oops, altogether not oops. And then our behaviors that come from that is we play it safe, we settle for less. We take the easy way, the path of least resistance. I spent many years taking the path of least resistance. And we live what I call the life of default, rather than the life we're here to live, the full life, the life of our dreams. But the most difficult and challenging thing that the ego does is we start to rely on others in those special relationships to do it for us and to fill those needs that we think we can't do. And for those of you who read the Course in Miracles or the Course of Love, you've heard us talk about special relationships. And those are the relationships that we all pick. And it's almost like saying, I'm going to pick you to be my special one. Now you pick up the slack for me, okay? Anybody here ever been accused of doing that? Pick up the slack for me? And what happens then when we make someone special and we put them on a pedestal and we say, now you be my special one, they become a slave to us and we become a slave to them. And then we put those expectations on them, and of course they can't live up to them. So as soon as they start to fall off that pedestal, the relationships go sour. Now before you get too uncomfortable here, add to that comparison thinking. Does anybody do any comparison thinking? You know, you walk around, well, that person's more accomplished than I am, or maybe I'm more accomplished than they are. And you know, there's always people that are more accomplished, and there's always people that are less accomplished. So that constant judgment and comparison goes on and reinforces the I'm not enough belief. Now, people have these special relationships, and the one thing that Course Miracles or the Course in Love doesn't talk about a lot, I think there's another kind of special relationship we have. And I think it's the one where we say, you be someone I can project all my hate and anger and self-loathing on. Oops. Now, what kind of special relationship is that? That's where racism comes from. That's where all kinds of judgment we put on people. I'm uncomfortable with who I am. I'm just going to project that on you so I can feel better. Altogether, no, oops. Meanwhile, because I'm not enough, the world is waiting for what you have to contribute. And how long are you going to wait to contribute what you're here to give, your light? You know, you can tell how old I am by the movies I talk about. And I bet nobody in here remembers Tea House of the August Moon with Glenn Ford. One, rather, two, three. Anybody know who Glenn Ford is anymore? You know, I don't remember much about the movie, but it was a cute movie. And the only reason I bring it up, there was one quote in that movie, and I had the video, and I kept rewinding so I could write this down. And I've kept it all these years. He said, a man, or you could say a woman, has to find peace somewhere between his limitations and his expectations. Ooh, altogether now, ooh. Have you found peace between your limitations and your expectations? Wow, that can be a lifetime, can't it? If you're comfortable, repeat with me, I am enough for what I came here to do. Get together. I am enough for what I came here to do. And I am enough, nothing is missing. Together, I am enough, nothing is missing. I'm one with the one presence, one power. Together, I'm one with the one presence, one power. Yeah. You know, in ancient times, now I wasn't that old, but in ancient times, they had what was called mystery schools. And these mystery schools taught universal natural laws that anybody can tap into and use to empower yourself. And the powers that be never wanted the masses to know the power they had within them, so they were secret societies. And of course now the collective consciousness is becoming aware of most of these natural principles or laws. But they were to empower the chosen few, those who were ready, because you got to be ready to tap into that power, right? It's there. Or to those who had enough money to buy their way in, or had political connections to be the chosen ones. It was all about power and control, but knowing these natural universal laws that are available to everyone empowers a person. And so we're going to go through a few of them. I call them the laws of the mind and the laws of the heart. Most people just concentrate on the laws of the mind, but we're going to balance the laws of the mind with the laws of the heart. And the first 4 or 5 sound almost the same because they're the laws of the mind. But the first one is called the law of one, and we've been talking about that this morning, that we are one with the divine presence. There is no separation, and we're one with each other in all life. And traditional religions will worship 2 gods, God and the devil. How can an all-powerful God have another power that's equal? And the evil comes from our belief in separation. When the human ego thinks it has to attack and defend, compare and all that, and that's where evil comes from. So the laws of mental science and the laws of mysticism help us to empower ourselves. The first one, which is from the law of one, is life is consciousness. Boy, that was a big one for me. Life is a reflection of consciousness, and no one can give to you what is not yours in consciousness. So when you think you're not enough, how can the divine bless you if you think you're not enough? And no one can take from you what is yours in consciousness. You'll be able to recreate it because it's yours in consciousness. In unity, we like to say God can only do to you what God can do through you. I can have whatever I feel worthy enough to receive. And so along with life as consciousness, we have the law of mind action and the law of cause and effect, which is thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. If you want to grow watermelon, you don't plant rutabaga seeds. And if you want rutabagas, you don't plant watermelon seeds. So what seeds are you planting in your mind? You know, Victoria is doing a wonderful Wednesday night class around here based on a book by Ernest Holmes from Religious Science. I call them Kissing Cousins of Unity. And she said someone once asked her, "What's my future going to be a year from now?" And her answer was very simple. She said, "What's in your mind right now? What are you holding in your mind right now? That's going to be your future a year from now." That's also called the law of attraction. You see how all these laws sound very similar. You will attract to you what you're constantly holding in consciousness, either positive or negative, empowering or disempowering. There's also a law called the Law of Correspondence, as above, so below, on earth as it is in heaven. In the realm of divine ideas, what are those higher thoughts and what are you bringing down below? You know, it used to make me so angry. There was a scripture when I'd read it, I'd get so mad because it sounded so unfair. And it was the one that says, "To those who have, more will be given. And to those who don't have, even what you have will be taken away from you." Oh, that makes me mad. Before I understood it, it sounds like politics, doesn't it? But when you see life as consciousness, you get it. Oh, if you've got it in your mind, if you've got it in consciousness that I am enough, you'll have even more. And if you don't have that in your consciousness, even what you have, you won't be able to hold on to. It's natural, universal principle or laws that were based on these secret teachings that are now open to the masses. Well, I like to get out of my head and into my heart. Let's go to the laws of the heart. Jesus taught the laws of the heart as well. He said, seek the kingdom first, and all else is given to you. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Now, the kingdom of God isn't a place somewhere in the clouds, but a state of mind where you know your union with source and substance. Jesus never ran around saying, I'm not enough, help me, I got to find a special someone because I'm not enough. Pick up the slack. He never said that to anybody. He said, I have food and drink that you do not know of. He said, I am the bread of life. I am the living water, putting his I am statement, that part of him that is divine, with something empowering. He said, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. And he would go to that secret place of the Most High, that place inside where you awaken to your union with the divine. I am enough. I am enough. And then we can use prayer and meditation to reprogram the mind. The one clear teaching Jesus gave was know the truth, and the truth will set you free. In union with God, I am enough. Together, in union with God, I am enough. I am one with God, therefore I am enough. Together, I am one with God, therefore I am enough. And then he taught the law of love, the most powerful law of all. And he wasn't talking lovey-dovey stuff, although I'm sure he was very huggable. He was talking love is a universal power, the glue of the universe. And what we give love to holds it together. What we give love to increases it. That's why we bless things. That's why we best bless our love offerings. Whatever you bless and give love to increases. And what you take love away from or give hate to disempowers, decreases. So we try to choose love in every situation, which brings us to one of the final laws, big law of oops, and that's the law of forgiveness. And I have to clarify here, the Course in Miracles and the Course in Love is very clear. Some people think forgiveness means you've messed up, you've done something wrong, but I in my self-righteousness forgive you. How's that feel to you when somebody does that to you? You've hurt me, but I'm going to forgive you. That's not forgiveness. That's self-righteousness. Forgiveness says, you know what? I'm just going to let this go. It never happened. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to free myself. And in freeing you, I free myself. Powerful law of the universe. Forgiveness. Powerful law. And that's why Jesus in his prayer said, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, was very clear that if you are in debt, you're probably holding someone in debt to you. And as you release them, you will free yourself. And this week, this was so I'm so embarrassed. People always ask ministers if you practice what you preach. And you know what? We all practice, but we don't always get it right either. We're learning just like you are. And while I was driving to church this week, I had a big awakening on this issue of forgiveness. You see, Michael and I have a loved one, and we'd lent this loved one some money. And he paid back part of it, but then he had to quit because he was having car trouble and whatnot. But he never really talked about it afterwards, and it's just like it kind of went away. And I was getting a little resentful. And then we got this big dental bill. And I thought even more, if he'd just pay us off, we could pay off that dental bill. And then I was driving to church, and it came to me, oops, who are you holding in debt to you? And I realized I was holding this loved one in debt to us. And as long as I was holding him in debt, the universe was supplying me with my own debt. And so I started to pray, okay, I gotta forgive. and I wasn't quite ready yet, and I said, oh my God, I'm willing to be willing to forgive. I have to start there. And I kept driving to church. It was a great lesson, driving to church, having this experience. And okay, I was getting closer to church, and I said, okay, now I'm willing to forgive. I hadn't quite gotten all there yet, and by the time I got home, I thought, okay, I think I'm finally ready. I can let this go. Just let this go. And it was really interesting because like 2 hours later, Michael happened to be on the phone with him, and the first words out of this person's mouth was, you know what, I've got my car all fixed now. I think I can start paying you back again. And we hadn't talked to him for quite a while. But you see, I had to let him go because I was holding him in debt to us in order for us to be free. I had to free him. Charles Fillmore spent 15 minutes every night in prayers of forgiveness. Can you imagine? 15 minutes. I don't even know that I spend that much total at night in prayer. He spent 15 minutes just on forgiveness. Who are you holding in debt to you? Now I have an even bigger soapbox, and that's the healthcare system in America. Anybody want to get on the soapbox? I tell you what, I can make Michael Moore look like small potatoes. I get angry just walking into Walgreens some days. And I realized, you know what, I gotta let that go. I gotta stop that kind of thinking. And I have to switch to gratitude. The system may be corrupt, but there are doctors in this town that are wonderful, that have saved my life. There are drugs I'm taking that have prolonged my life. I have to shift into gratitude. Which brings me to the very last law I'm going to talk about today, natural universal principle. And that is the law of surrender. Anybody get nervous just hearing that word, surrender? It doesn't mean giving up. It means giving way to a higher power. Let go and let God take over. What are you struggling for? You are one with the power of the universe. Let go and let God. Anybody here need a double dog dare you? I double dog dare you. It works every time. So I usually close my message with prayer. And today I'm taking my prayer from Saturday Night Live. Remember Stuart Smiley, and I've said this prayer before. I'll say it first, and then I want you to repeat it with me. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Together, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. I am enough. Together, I am enough. Smoky Nights, take it away.